Hey guys, it's Shauna with Just Try to Be Nice, and this is a recipe on how to make spaghetti. How I make my spaghetti. And I make my spaghetti from scratch. I don't use Prego. I mean, sometimes I use Prego or Hunt's or Ragu or whatever's on sale. But for the most part, I make my own sauce because my kids are special dietary needs, and there's a lot of bad stuff in those sauces. It's a lot of sugar that shouldn't be in there, and there's a lot of other things that shouldn't be in there. So I like to make it this way because then I know exactly what I'm putting in it and exactly what my kids are getting. So, first thing you need to do is get your ingredients together. And the first thing on this, and right now at this point in this video, I will show you a picture of all the ingredients. Okay, so now you know. Now you take your 2 onions and 2 bell peppers, and you chop them up fairly finely. I mean, they don't need to be like crazy small, but, you know, pretty fine. I use a chopper. And then I've got about 1/4 of a cup of butter in my pan, melting up. This is not a necessary step since I'm cooking it in the crock pot. I don't really need to do this, but all of my seasonings are dry, and anytime you use dry seasonings, you want to use them, you want to break them up, and you want to heat them up because that gets all that flavor out. So the first thing I'm going to use is Goya adobo without pepper because I do not like pepper, and neither do my kids. Neither one of us are fans of pepper, and I found this in the back of the cabinet, just has a tiny little bit left, so I'm just going to use what's left of that. And then we're going to put in a little onion powder. Not a lot, because we have actual onions in there. So just like, actually, this one's pretty, it's pretty dried out. So we're going to get what we can, and that's it. Alright, but that's okay. We don't need it a lot, because we have onion in there. And then we're going to use some garlic salt. And again, not a lot. Just a little. Then we're going to use some basil. Now these spices are actually from my grandmother. So these spices are from the 70s, or maybe the 80s, probably the 70s. So these are old. They don't go bad, but you want to break them open in your hand, just like this, and then you want to drop them into the pan. You want to heat them up, you want to break them up and heat them up, because that'll bring those, because they're dehydrated and they've been dormant for a while. And we're going to add a little thyme, a considerable amount of thyme actually. Alright, just a pinch of oregano, and I mean just a pinch of oregano, just to give a little savory flavor, and then a lot of Italian seasonings. Now we're going to use a lot of Italian seasonings because it's an Italian meal. I'm making Italian spaghetti. And this seasoning, this Italian seasoning, I get it at the Dollar General for $1, so I don't have to feel like I have to conserve it. It's like I used 25 cents worth of it there, and I don't feel guilty about it at all. Here's some parsley flakes. And then some chopped dehydrated onion. Not a lot, because I've got real onions in there, but they just add an extra dimension of that flavor. So now that I've got all my seasonings in my pan, I'm going to get a wooden spoon, wooden spatula. I'm going to work these around, make sure that they're good and coated in this butter. Yeah, perfect. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. I can smell it. When you start to be able to smell all the herbs, then you know you're doing it right, because that's how you know that if they're releasing the aroma, then that means the oils in the dehydrated spices have come out now, and that's what you want. Like, it doesn't do any good to put dried seasonings in your stuff because you don't get that flavor. And I honestly can't afford fresh oregano or thyme. I'm always on a budget. All of my videos are about how to feed your family inexpensively. So if I go and I spend $9 on fresh thyme, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? All right, so now I've got my herb mixture. See, it's good and butter coated, and it's doing exactly what it should be doing right now. And now I'm just going to add a tiny, tiny, tiny touch of corn oil. Just about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons at the most. And I want to keep that kind of separate from my butter mixture to start with. And then I'm going to just slide these in real slow. Now I've got all my herbs on this side of the pan, and I'm just going to slide these in real slow, and I'm going to try to keep them on the other side of the pan so that they can start to sweat and cook down just a tiny bit before I introduce the herbs. Alright, you hear the sizzle? That's what you want to hear. You want to hear that sizzle. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of let these do their things. And if some herbs get in there, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm going to change your view and show you what it looks like from my perspective. So this is what my pan looks like. I've got all my herbs on this side. And they're still on the heat, but they're kind of off the heat. And then I've got all of my onions and my pepper mixture here. And all I'm going to do is sweat these down just a little bit. Which again, I don't need to do this step because they are going to be cooking in the crock pot for quite some time. But I like to do this step because it adds flavor. It just adds an extra layer of flavor to your dish, which wouldn't normally be there if you just threw it all in the crock pot. But doing it this way, it allows these herbs to penetrate these vegetables. Yeah, I did just say the herbs penetrate the vegetables. I know, but it allows the herbs to get into the flavor of the vegetables. So while the vegetables are cooking in the crock pot, they're also flavoring the food. So, alright, I'm going to let you go now. I'm going to come back in just a few minutes when this is all done and cooked. And then I'm going to show you the next step, which is when we put the meat in. And then we put in our tomatoes. So I'll come back in just a few minutes with step 2 of how to make the best spaghetti that your kids will love. I'll be back in just a little bit. Bye! I'm back. Okay, so this is step 2. Now, step 1 is done. I've got all of my onions and my peppers and all of my seasonings in my crock pot, in the bottom of the crock pot. And now I'm going to take my burger, just ground old burger. It's ground chuck 80/20. And I'm going to put it in there. And I'm going to just place this piece of burger just the way that it is in the thing. I'm just going to try to place it right on top in one big piece. So I usually just flip it. Here, let me see if I can show you better. I like to keep it in one piece because later on when I go to drain it, I like to have it all in one piece because I separate the sausage and the meat. Or the sausage and the burger because my husband doesn't like the sausage. So, whoop, yep, and it stayed in one piece. Let me show you. See, it stayed in one piece. So now that that's in there, just like that. Now, the scragglers don't bother me. I'm not going to leave those. I paid for them. So there we go. And now the sausage. Now this is just Harris Teeter mild Italian sausage. And this is the secret to my sauce, is the sausage. My kids are always like, this meat tastes so good. I'm like, yeah, well, that's technically because it's 2 kinds of meat. And then the sausage is, I get this in the links like this because I just kind of set them on the side, still in the casing. I used to squeeze them out of the casing and go to all this trouble, but then I was like, why am I doing all that? That's just too much trouble. And this way I can separate them very easily. I can separate the sausage from the hamburger very easily. And later on, I will let it all cook together, and then I'll take some of the hamburger and separate it from my husband because he does not like the sausage. And then the rest of the burger and the sausage and the pepper and the mixture, I'll puree it all and I'll mix it all up really good. So now I've got my onions and peppers underneath here. And then I've got my meat here. And then I've got my sausages just kind of laid around. And now I'm going to place my tomatoes, which I got these tomatoes today. This new kind of tomato today. And I've never tried it before. I don't know really how it works. It says it's easy to just tear this off, but, oh, well, it would be probably easy if I hadn't broken my nails yesterday, so. I'm just going to use my teeth, because that is kind of easy, but I broke my thumbnail off yesterday doing that downspout video for y'all. There we go. Oh, great. Okay, so then I guess you just kind of pop it open. This is a new kind of tomato I've never gotten before. It was only $1. They were 10 for 10 today at Harris Teeter. And if you'll notice, they already have Italian seasonings in them. So that's why I opted for these. Normally, I buy the Harris Teeter diced tomatoes with no flavor, but these were cheaper today. So I opted for these because, hey, why not? It's cheaper. And then all I do is very gently, I place in the little bed that's been made with the burger and the sausage, I just place these right in the middle. Just like that. Now, I am leaving an awful lot of tomato in there, so I'm going to get a spoon, and I'm going to make sure I don't leave any of this tomato in here, because A, I paid for it, and I don't want to waste my money, and B, I want as much flavor in there as I can get. So, there you go. That's how you do it. And now I will leave this on high for about 3 hours. And then I'll come back and I'll show you the next step that we do, which is to drain it all and then to add these tomatoes to it after you've drained it, because you don't want that grease. There's 80-20, there's always a lot of grease. So you want to strain it from all the grease and then add your tomato sauce, which I'm already making the tomato sauce, but it'll be greasy if I don't. So I'm going to show you one more time before I go. So I've got my green peppers and onions, then this is all hamburger, and then all my sausages, and then I just put those tomatoes right in the middle, just like that. Now, I'm going to let it do its thing, and then, like I said, I'm going to come back in 3 hours. So I'll see you guys in 3 hours. Bye! Hey guys, it's me, Shauna, again, and this is video 3 of my spaghetti. So it's been about 3 hours, and my meat is nice and cooked and still in one piece, which was very easy to take out of the crock pot. My sausage and my potatoes are still in one piece. And then I have my onions and my peppers in here, but they are surrounded by grease, like I said before. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to set you down right there. I'm going to grab I have a strainer in my sink. It's hot. My crock pot is hot, so I have it in with pot holders. And I'm just going to strain out all that grease. Like I said before, because I'm using an 80-20 mix, there's a considerable amount of grease. And you don't want to be feeding that to your family. Like, look at all that. That's gross. You don't want to feed that to your family. That's disgusting. So I always strain it from all the grease. That's why I cook it the way that I do, so that the grease is just really easy. It's not incorporated into the meat. And a little bit of grease is okay, but not cups and cups and cups of it. That's too much. So now that I have that going like that, I'm going to pour my sausage and my tomato mixture in there, because that also had some grease. Not a lot, but it had some. And I don't want any in there if I don't have to have it in there. So I'm just going to strain as much of this grease out as I can. You don't want to strain out all of the flavor, just the grease. Now I'm going to put this right back in. Now what I've got in here is my sausage and my tomatoes and my onions and my bell pepper. And I'm going to rinse this out, because this is going to be the same strainer that I used with the pasta. I haven't cooked the pasta, but you know how to cook pasta. You put water in a pot, put some salt, put some oil, and then you cook the pasta. So now what I'm going to do is, now that I've gotten this here, I'm going to show you. I've got my sausage still in the casing. These are my peppers and my onions, and then those are the tomatoes that I put in with the Italian seasoning. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this little guy. And I use this little guy an awful lot. I really do. It's kind of sketchy how much I use it in my kitchen. And he's a Braun 300 watt pureer, maybe? Mixer. He's not a mixer. I mean, he does mix drinks, but he's not a mixer. And what you do is, it's got that little thing on the bottom, and that little thing spins around. It's a razor, so don't cut yourself. And what I want to do is, I want to kind of jump him. I want to kind of pop him up and down, so he'll cut into that sausage. See? Cuts right into that sausage. And then mix the sausage, the onions, and the peppers, and the tomatoes. Just mix it all really, really, really good. You want to try not to have big pieces of sausage. Alright. Now I'm just going to knock off the excess. Set you back down. I'm going to put him off to the side so I can wash him. I'm going to put him back where I keep him, which is in this drawer right here. Because like I said, I use him an awful lot. And now I'm going to show you what I have. And what I have is ground sausage with potatoes, with onions and peppers. And there's one piece of sausage that's still pretty big. So you want to make sure you don't have like giant pieces of sausage. Like here, for example, I'll show you. See this bottom of this casing here? Can you see how long he is? That's too long. You want to split him up into 2 pieces. You can have big bites, but you don't want like big sausage link in there. Alright, so that sausage is good. Now, I'm going to take another bowl, and I'm going to set my hamburger meat in there. I've got my hamburger meat here. I'm going to pick him up real easy. It's kind of like a meatloaf. I'm just going to pick him up, and I'm going to let as much of that grease just drip off of him as I can. I'm going to set him in my bowl. And now this goes into the pan. I'm going to save those onions and peppers. I don't want to lose them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1/3 of this and I'm just going to cut it off and separate it. Because my husband does not like the sausage. He doesn't like the sauce with the sausage. He likes it just plain old hamburger. So I usually take about 1/3 of whatever I make and I set it off to the side for him so he can have his sausage-less hamburger. But for everyone else, now I'll just kind of break up the burger. Now you don't want to use your thing, you don't want to puree your burger meat. Because that stuff's nasty if it tastes like potted meat. So you don't want to do that. And then you want to mix your burger into your sausage mixture, and it's okay that there's some loose onions and peppers and that they didn't all get added to the sausage mixture and ground up in there. That's fine. And then you're just going to flip and incorporate, flip and incorporate, flip and incorporate all the way around. Now that that's done, we're going to add this to the crock pot. I'm going to bring you over here with me, and I'm going to put this back into the crock pot. Here, let me show you. Sorry. Woo. I'm going to put this back into the crock pot, just like that. Alright. Use make sure everything's good and mixed. And we're good. Everything is good and mixed. The hamburger is incorporated into the sausage. And so on. I'm going to taste it. Always taste your cookie. That's good. That's really good. Can't wait for tonight. That is yummy. So now I'm going to put my other thing of tomatoes out. And like I said earlier, this would be a lot easier if I had not broken my thumbnails. So, try to do this the way that it's supposed to, but it just doesn't want to work the way that it's supposed to. I think it's a flaw in their design, to be honest with you. There we go. Alright, so, but you see the top still didn't rip off. I think it is a flaw in their design. So now I'm going to add another can of this, or another container of this sauce with just the onions and the garlic and the tomatoes. Just stewed, plain old stewed tomatoes, nothing fancy. Alright. Just going to make sure I get it all like last time. I don't want to leave any behind. Alright. And now I got to get my can opener and open this can of petite diced tomatoes. Now I love stewed tomatoes. My mom used to just eat them straight out of the can when I was a kid. So whenever I do stewed tomatoes, which like I said before, every Wednesday we have spaghetti. Every Wednesday we have spaghetti. And I always treat myself to a big spoonful because I just love it the way that it is. Just straight out of the can. One more. And now, I'm just going to pour this whole can, minus the 2 scoops I just took, into this meat mixture. Now you don't leave as much behind in the can as you do in the box, but you make sure you get it all. And then I'm going to throw these away. Done. And now, I'm going to show you. That's what it looks like now. So now I'm going to bring from the bottom to the top, from the bottom to the top, from the bottom to the top. I'm just going to incorporate it, mix it up really well. And then I'm going to put it on low. Actually, I'm going to put it on keep warm because low is too cold for my kids. So, there you go. There you go. That's how to do it. And I hope you enjoy it. Now I've got my husband's set off to the side, and I will put it right next to the crock pot, right next to it. And I usually put a little plate on top. Where's my little plate? I have a little tiny plate that I usually put on. So, but my kid must have put it away. And then so I'll just keep this little plate right here, and I'll keep it right next to the crock pot. And it'll keep it nice and warm. And now I'm going to wash all of my dishes. And I washed all of the dishes that I used earlier in between. So I always wash as you go, clean as you go. Don't leave a big sink full of dishes, because after you eat, you're not gonna want to wash dishes after you eat. Trust me. So I'm gonna wash all of these. I'm gonna rinse all these off. I'm gonna put these into the dishwasher, and then I'm gonna run my dishwasher so that by the time we get ready to eat tonight, the dishes will be clean. I'll be able to put everything in the dishwasher and be done. And there you go. That's how I make my kick-ass spaghetti that my kids and everybody loves. So if you make it, let me know. Comment me and tell me how good it was and yummy it was, because I know my kids are going to like it. Oh, and like I said, boil pasta. Any kind of pasta in a pot with salt and a little oil. And then just add the sauce to the pasta. It's that simple. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!